Well, greetings, and sorry this is Editor Joe coming from his webcam already. I did this whole video. I was so proud of myself. I got all the footage I needed. I got Mint installed on this MacBook, and everything was great. And then I forgot to film an intro, and I got all the way through editing it, and I have no intro at all. Such is life. Anyway, I'm glad you're here today because I bought a fun little toy, is what I was going to tell you. This is a MacBook, but not just any MacBook. This is a 2011 MacBook Air, and you can kind of see what it looks like from here. I briefly touch on it a little bit later in the video. The story behind this is I kind of know where this one came from. I'm not going to cite my sources, but let's just say I have it on good authority. It's a computer that was used at the university that was tended to by somebody I know. More than likely. Obviously, I don't have confirmation because I haven't followed up on that. But long story short of it, though, is this is a 2011 MacBook Air with a second gen i5, 4 gigs of RAM, $50, which is pretty cheap for a Mac. I did not keep Mac OS on it because it ran like a turd, but it's in good shape, and I am planning on doing a follow-up video with it, but I will leave that up to your surprise. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to tear this thing down because it desperately needs torn down. It needs a good cleaning and whatnot. So apologies for the webcam. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the video. And next time, editor, remember to actually record an intro when you're actually recording everything else so you don't forget about it for days. Enjoy the rest of the video. Be awkward when I get this apart. So this is a MacBook Air. And as much as I don't like Apple, they do make pretty good MacBook Airs. These older ones specifically, this is a 2011 mid-tier ordered, but they take T Torx bits. So you gotta have the right size Torx. Nope. Keep stepping down. I used to know this because I used to have a 2010 Pro. MacBook Pro. No. Okay, well obviously that one's too small. So it's not a... Is it not one of these? Or is this a star? This looks a little bit more like a star. I may have to get my other kit out because I have Torx here. Yeah, and I got the Blowy-Matron because I found this the other day. These are unrelated. And I won't be able to use my iFixit driver, so we will deal with that as we do. This is my Chinesium set, which, as you can tell, gets rearranged every single time I close it, because it is so good. It's also rusty because my mother-in-law sprayed it one time trying to clean it. But it does have more Torx bits. Yeah, T4 is probably pretty close. It was the AP5. I've got some extras to the side, so set that there. And wow, these have not been out. Now, it is a good word of warning, but when you're taking screws out of a Mac like this, Normally it doesn't matter, but oh crap. One of the things you'll want to do is set them down in the order you take them out so they can go back in the same hole. Wow, some of these have never been out. You can feel that you're breaking virginity. That way they kind of go back in the same hole. Not normally an issue for most electronics, but set those down on the floor. For MacBooks like these, you could very easily overdrive into the palm rest or something, because, well, Apple be like this. Especially like that one, these two are extra long. I couldn't tell you why, but they are. And then this should just pop right off. Pretty dusty inside. Yeah, pretty dirty fan too. But importantly, the battery is not puffy and swollen, which is good. There's our Apple SSD. You can mostly see that. You can also see this level of gooch I've got going on here. Oh gosh. Yeah, we'll be blowing that outside. The exposed IHS, the wireless card, which technically is replaceable if you bought an adapter and wired in your own. Speakers. But yeah, the important thing is the battery, even though it's heavily worn, is in pretty good condition, so I think we'll be good. It is worth noting this little rubber piece here is important. If you rip it off and you don't put it back on, it won't make a proper seal with the chassis. So I am going to, looks like they are still star heads. Oh, but it's a different size. So I gotta grab that kit again. And put this flat blade back in. And figure out, is it a 6? Is that what it is in here? Ooh, that's too big. Is it a 5 then? Is it a proper star now? They're actually both the same. They might have actually gone to proper star heads now. Like I said, it is really close. I believe this needs a T5. Yeah, because that's too loose. I don't think that is either of these bits. I might have lost my T5. But no matter, I have an iFixit here that does have a T5. Yep. So yeah, they use a proprietary star head to take the case off. But then a normal star for the heatsink. So we're going to go ahead and take this off in crisscross applesauce form. It is worth noting these screws are non-retaining. And it is important to take them off in crisscross applesauce fashion. And I like loosen one, then take the other one off, then immediately take the other one off. So you don't put uneven pressure on that die, because you could easily fuck stuff up. And then you gotta take this one out. This ribbon cable has to go. A good person would also sit here and unplug the battery. I'm not going to do that because I don't actually care about this device that much. It's literal e-waste, so okay, I believe I need this screw as well. But yeah, it's literal e-waste, even though it is in quite good condition. Let's see, I gotta take the star head out. And I believe that should let this fan come out. Although I might have to take this out. Yep, looks like there's another hidden one here. Hidden under this wire. So we'll pop that rubber dome off. We'll pop this fan out. There's that other screw. That is a very delicate ribbon cable. We're going to take the tactical decision to just take this thing outside, blow it out, then we'll come back and we'll repaste and finish assembling. But I know it's hard for the camera to see. That is all that was left of that thermal compound. I mean, it's fucking wasted. It's probably from 2011. Good die contact. Everything else is garbage. So we'll be back in a bit. We will. A little light. So I did unfortunately unplug this fan. So I'll have to plug that tiny little ribbon back in. I've got tweezers in one of my kits for that. But much improved. I can't get it all out. There's still a little bit in the fan, but I mean, proof's in the pudding right there. And we're about to do even more for it. So I will be wiping off the thermal paste and whatnot, but I thought I would also take my illustrious eucalyptus oil in a bottle, and it's also okay if this gets on electronics. It's not conductive. It's all good. But we'll make everything smell good. It'll also get rid of any other grit and grime and whatnot that exists here. Yeah, if they had smell-o-vision, you know, I would let you smell it. So I will set this aside. We'll clean the rest of the computer later. For now, let's do this thermal grease. And I'm just going to do an alcohol swab here. A lot of people just dip a Q-tip in alcohol, and that also works. So now I have no thermal grease. We'll double check we have a clean contact area. Sometimes teeth help. Okay, so I will need in here and the cable here gets rerouted. And now make sure the rubber grommet's down. Wiggle that on there a little bit.
Oh my.
Reinstallation time. So if I remember correctly, the next time I should need in here is realistically for parting it out someday. So now we're at this step, I will go ahead and do the cleaning. Got some eucalyptus on here. I don't use the fuzzy side unless I'm like on a screen. And these are just like automotive rags or cleaning devices. And that's just mostly because it kind of doesn't matter what you use. I like microfiber because it tends to pick up a lot of the grime without causing a lot of damage to the device or leaving a bunch of material behind. And there's things like these deep scratches on the sides I'm not going to be able to do anything with. But I hope it comes across on camera how much better that is. There's still some light scuffing, but honestly, pretty nice. Yeah, it has this little green dot here. I think I know the staff member this came from, and that's all I'm going to say. You others out there that know, you know. I'm going to leave the sticker there because to me, it's kind of neat. So unfortunately, this is not a 180 hinge, so it will not go full flat. And this is a situation of I will clean the keyboard, but I will not spray directly on it. These are not known with these keyboards to be incredibly durable. Pretty reasonable cleanliness. I will spray that there. This is probably the worst area over here of the grime. I think largely this device was just never cleaned. So like what I took out of it was 2011 thermal paste. Mine's on the floor right now. Or more importantly, Walmart sells these lens wipes. These are great for glasses, by the way. They also work with screens. So if you do use anything alcohol based on the screen or like an eucalyptus oil, it's not going to inherently hurt it. But I wouldn't leave that on the screen. Yeah, see all the scratches from the keyboard did not come out. And I highly doubt you'll be able to kind of see it maybe. But you can see there's scratching on the screen from the keyboard. That's pretty common. You're never going to get away from that. All notebooks pretty much do that. But this thing's clean, and it's kind of cherry. That's refurbished now, so I'm going to clean up my workbench, and I guess I'll record a little bit from the MacBook, show you guys around, because it doesn't run Mac OS anymore, fun fact. High Sierra software support is not good in 2025, so I'll be right back. So we have the MacBook here. Not anything too crazy. I've got a pretty standard layout on it. One of the big things with this system is I've only got 128 gigs of storage. It is a factory Apple SSD for the record, so that's something. And the drive health, just go into smart test here, says it's old, but it doesn't tell me there's anything really wrong with it. It's got 2 years of power on hours. That's actually not bad. The cycle count, yeah, that's up there. But again, there's nothing here that says that there's anything going on, so I'm happy with that. And my base allotment of software seems to easily fit inside this envelope. One caveat, we don't have much RAM, so if I close this out here and we go into System, we go to System Info, it says I've got 3.7 gigs. So this has soldered memory. And at least the storage is upgradable. It has soldered memory. So I do have the swap. I believe it's got 4 gigs of swap. I may increase it later. But for what I'm going to do with this thing, I should be able to fit inside an 8 gig envelope, which is 4 gigs of physical memory and 4 gigs of swap. should be fine. I'm going to be watching YouTube and SSHing into a server and maybe remote viewing virtual machines on my Proxmox. Like, it's going to be nothing crazy. Pretty much just really basic stuff. So in terms of software, I don't have anything crazy on here. I'm mostly just going to be using the Firefox web browser because that's what I use. I talk to people over Discord. I've got Thunderbird for email. I do occasionally get on Matrix, so there you go. If you see me around, it is me. And I do have this thing called Supersonic, which ties, it's a music player that ties into my Jellyfin as one of the features it does, and it will play music off the Jellyfin, so I can make playlists and whatnot and play my self-hosted music. My Notes app, Notesnook, and Tilix, my favorite terminal, because nothing else has ever come around that has made me want to switch. So that's pretty much everything with this system. One of the big things for me was we're literally like 10 or 20 degrees cooler. So this was sitting between 80 and 90 degrees all the time. Now I'm not doing anything right now. We'll see under some load. I'll superimpose some text here if it's not actually any better. But I was hitting 90 degrees watching YouTube. So that's obviously not ideal. Now I could have gone with something lighter weight. This is a 2nd Gen i5. But I honestly wanted to show you guys that Cinnamon will run on some pretty old hardware. This is Intel's 2nd generation hardware with integrated graphics and 4 gigs of RAM. It is about as low spec as I would run Cinnamon on, but Cinnamon can handle 4 gigs of RAM just fine. If you want a little bit lighter, XFCE exists, but for what I'm going to do, the basic stuff on here, handful of tabs in Firefox is probably about as intensive as this thing's ever going to see, so for that, I'm not offended at all. I have ports. I didn't talk about them, but I have USB headphone jack, which most things don't. A Thunderbolt 2, also known as mini display port. USB and a card reader, so I may even use it to grab footage off my camera when I do use it. That sort of thing. So one last thing. MacBook Pro fan or MPP fan is a must. So if you don't know, Apple devices usually get their fan profiles from the system firmware. If you ever clear that system firmware, it has to then figure that out itself, and it usually doesn't, and it'll overheat and die. So what I've done is they make an app called MBP Fan, short for MacBook Pro Fan. And it's essentially like the old, if you've ever used it on Mac OS, the Mac Fan Control. It's a CLI utility that does that because there's nothing in my menu. You install it and then set it up as a system service and then enable it. So it'd be a sudo apt install mbp fan with my super secure password.
That's the stupidest combination I ever heard in my life!
Oh, well, I'm not cutting that from the video. I can't type. So it's already installed. And then I would do a systemctl enable mbp fan.service. It'll once again ask for my credentials. If you do this as sudo, you only have to do this once. And then you would say sudo system control start mbp fan.service. And sometimes you'd hear your fans word or life. I think mine are probably going to stay pretty quiet, especially for this recording. But everything works. I mean, I've got wireless. This has a Broadcom chipset for the record. So I tried to install Debian Edition, and I'll try to overlay some screenshots and stuff if I have any. But the boot picker just showed me nothing afterwards. I couldn't figure out. I tried a couple times to repair the install because I wanted to use Debian Edition on here because I like Debian Edition. It just didn't work. And yeah, actually, there's the fans. They're pretty quiet, though. Pretty darn quiet, if you do ask me. But yeah, I could use the Broadcom DKMS source. I'll keep it in mind, but the kernel driver is working, and the Wi-Fi works plenty fast. It definitely saturates whatever this processor can handle, so was going to do that. And we'll see if it behaves itself. It did not yesterday. Okay, it does today. Hi there. This is what a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air webcam looks like from 2011. It's potato quality, but the frame rate's pretty good. There's no tearing or whatnot. You know, it's a little blurry, but it's good. It's good enough for your Zoom calls or whatnot. So this device is perfectly usable. I'm just saying. So with that, I'm getting out of your hair. I'm going to enjoy my Mintbook Air. I think you should go save some e-waste. And, you know, might as well have some fun while doing it. So with that, I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.